The highway patrol officer pulled over what he thought was an abandoned rental car on I-35, just outside Denton, Texas. Headlights dim, trunk slightly ajar. He would later say he still remembers the smell. Inside the trunk, 2 bodies, male and female, barely dressed. No signs of struggle, no visible wounds. A hotel keycard, a receipt from Florence, Italy, 2 half-burned passports. She had flown in alone. Calm. No check bags. Security footage showed her waiting by the arrival's gate, smiling into her phone. 36 hours later, she was dead. The boyfriend? No next of kin. No clear record. Just a suitcase full of new clothes and a prepaid phone with 2 outgoing calls. One to a local cab company, the other to a man in Milan, her former boss. What no one knew yet was that $123,000 had vanished from his company's account that same week. And she had the passwords. But what happened between the airport smile and the trunk? And why did she think they'd make it out alive? Welcome to Evil Crime Cases. Thanks for subscribing to our channel. Please like and share our videos, and don't forget to share your thoughts in the comment section. Now let's get back to the details of the case. They watched the security footage 4 times before anyone noticed her hands. March 4th, 2024. Florence Airport. Gate C-19. A woman in a black trench coat and mirrored sunglasses. She walks with calm purpose, puts her hands, clutching a carry-on bag so tight, her knuckles are bone white. That's Taria Knox, 26 years old, Atlanta-born, last seen that morning. And standing beside her, a man with no luggage, no expression, just a thin tattoo circling his ring finger. They board a one-way flight to Miami. Neither is ever seen alive again. But to understand why she ran and who she ran with, we need to go back to the first time Taria disappeared. She was 17. Another file number in Georgia's broken foster care system. Smart, sharp-tongued, already on her 3rd placement. The last one was worse than the others. Police reports described verbal abuse and potential sexual misconduct. She filed complaints. No one listened. So she vanished. No trace. No goodbye. She resurfaced months later. Older, harder, hungrier. She didn't trust institutions. She learned to survive on instinct. By 23, she was fluent in Italian and managing clients' affairs between Milan, Paris, and Florence. And by 25, she was working for Marco Bellini, an eccentric, high-profile art broker with 3 passports and a Rolodex full of billionaires. He was the kind of man who answered encrypted calls in the middle of dinner, who kept a vault instead of a closet, who didn't ask questions and didn't want them either. Taria wasn't just a personal assistant. She was the firewall between his world and the rest of us. She booked private flights for paintings that never touched galleries. She handled encrypted bank transfers. She bought burner phones in batches of 10, and she did it all with clinical precision. But something shifted after January 2024. She changed her passwords. She stopped calling her aunt back in Atlanta. One coworker said she cried in the bathroom during a shipment delay. Another said she came in one morning with bruises across her wrist, said it was from slipping on ice, but it was 60 degrees that day. Still, she never missed a task, never broke protocol, never talked about her personal life. Until that March morning, when she walked into Florence Airport with that man and bought a one-way ticket to Miami. No return, no explanation. The camera caught her eyes, just once, as she looked up from her phone. It was brief, but it didn't look like someone escaping. It looked like someone ready to finish something. So the question isn't just, why did she vanish again? The real question is, why did she choose him to vanish with? Damon Wells had been out of federal custody for 13 months. He was 32, still lean, still careful, still trying to outrun who he used to be. He wasn't supposed to be in Europe, not on probation, not with what was still on his record. Atlanta knew Damon as the ghost who disappeared right before an indictment. But federal prison knew him as inmate 46192-019. 7 years for wire fraud, conspiracy, and trafficking stolen identities across 4 states. The feds called him methodical, a gentleman thief, even polite when he turned himself in. But the thing about Damon, he always had one hand in the fire even when the other was shaking yours. Now, post-release, he was working off books at a shipping hub outside Savannah. Nights mostly. No paperwork. No questions. Cash paid every Thursday in a blank envelope. He rented a basement apartment behind a bait shop. No lease. No visitors. No mirrors. Then came Taria. He met her online during the COVID lockdown. Some encrypted messaging thread she was part of, filled with ex-cons, whistleblowers, and people who didn't use their real names. She called herself Onyx 13. He didn't ask why. He liked that she didn't try to fix him. She liked that he never asked about her boss. By the fall of 2023, she had a place in Florence and enough trust for Marco Bellini to bring someone over for a long stay. Taria booked his flight herself. Told Damon, "Don't pack like a fugitive. Just look like you belong." He landed at Parettola Airport on a Sunday. No bags. One prepaid Italian SIM card. One fake passport, curated in Belgium. She was waiting arrivals, hood pulled low, fake lashes hiding red eyes. She didn't smile, just pressed the key into his hand and said, "The apartment's bugged. Don't talk in the kitchen." For a few weeks, he played the boyfriend. He sat at cafes reading translated street maps, cooked meals she barely touched, slept like a man who couldn't trust the walls. But he wasn't there for the views. There was a plan. Not hers. Not his. Something bigger. Bellini's inner circle had grown sloppy. Art was moving too fast. Pieces were disappearing from customs faster than they could be registered. Private jet manifests listed no cargo, but took off heavier than they landed. And Damon knew how to recognize a blind spot. By February 2024, he was showing up regularly at a loading dock 40 minutes outside Florence. Always the same dock. Always alone. Sometimes the crates were marked with galleries in Rome, other times with addresses that didn't exist on any Italian registry. But every label carried the same 3 words. Private collection. Do not scan. On March 1st, he picked one up himself. Camera footage, obtained later by Italian customs officials, shows him walking briskly down the corridor in black gloves. He looks calm, focused, not like a man smuggling a forged Modigliani or a stolen sculpture. But it wasn't what was in the box that raised alarms. It was what followed. The next day, Taria changed the lock code on her building. She stopped answering video calls from her cousin in DeKalb. She cleared all her browsing history and turned off iCloud backups. Then she booked 2 one-way tickets to Miami. Only one name was real. And on March 4th, at precisely 6:47 a.m., surveillance from Amerigo Vespucci Airport captured Damon and Taria walking side by side through Terminal 2. He's pulling the crate on a low dolly. She's walking slightly ahead. No eye contact. Neither of them looked back. And that was the last time either of them were seen alive. Marco Bellini had built his empire from concrete and silence. A former street vendor turned construction mogul, he rose through the ranks of Milan's cutthroat development world, where loyalty came with a price tag and betrayal came with a consequence. He trusted no one. Not investors. Not lawyers. Not even his own brother. Divorced. No children. No attachments. But he had one obsession: African-American women. His villas were filled with African masks, Harlem Renaissance paintings, and jazz vinyls he never listened to. He paid for presence, not connection, until he met Taria at a private art showcase in Rome. She wasn't like the others. She didn't flirt. She didn't flinch. She looked at him like she was studying him. And for the first time in years, Marco liked the feeling of being watched. He called her Mia Tempesta, my storm. But even a storm has a path. He just didn't know he was standing in it. He began sending cars for her, buying gifts she returned unopened. She didn't ask for anything, and that made him want to give her everything. But what he didn't see, what he couldn't admit, was that Taria had already begun mapping his weaknesses. When Bellini invited her to a Milan business dinner, she declined, politely but firmly. The next morning, he found his email inbox wiped clean of a key contract, a file only accessible from his personal server. He blamed IT. He blamed the cloud. But not her. He never even asked. 2 weeks later, she told him she was planning to move to Miami. Needed to open a U.S. account. A side project. Something small, she said. She texted, "Don't worry. I never ask you to give." only to believe. Bellini wired $123,000 into a Florida-based business account that same afternoon. No questions, no terms, no signatures. Only later, when his lawyer flagged the IRS transaction for compliance review, did Bellini realize the account name wasn't hers. It belonged to someone named Seychelle James. He blinked twice, opened the bank slip again. Still Seychelle. No middle name. No Taria anywhere on the record. He dialed her line. Straight to voicemail. Tried her French number. Disconnected. Sent a driver to her Florence apartment. The concierge said she'd moved out 2 days earlier. Left no forwarding address. Bellini didn't panic. Not yet. He called a debt specialist he used for discreet recoveries in Serbia. Told him the girl may be in the U.S. Hours later, the investigator called back. Her phones are registered under a Nigerian passport. She never used her real name. And the woman in the ID photo doesn't match the girl you've been seeing. For the first time in a decade, Marco Bellini felt something he didn't recognize. Not anger, not loss, helplessness. But he still had her photos. Her fingerprints on his silk ties. Her scent on his yacht pillow. What he didn't have was his money. Or her name. February 28th, 2024, 10:12 a.m. Florence, Italy. Inside a gated villa surrounded by olive groves, Marco Bellini leaned over his cappuccino. His phone vibrated once. Then again. 3 times. He'd just authorized a $123,000 transfer. But not to a name he recognized. The account details had been sent over encrypted message. It looked like Taria's format, but the name on the U.S. account was N. Parker. He hesitated, but not for long. Bellini prided himself on trusting his instincts, on rewarding loyalty. So he tapped approve. And that's when the silence began. At 11:03 a.m., his phone logged him out of his banking app. 11:07 a.m., his two-factor authentication failed. By noon, Marco's entire digital footprint had been scrubbed. All passwords changed. Cloud backups erased. Even the biometric lock on his tablet rejected his face. Whoever had done this knew his recovery protocols. And worse, they'd used Taria's login to initiate the breach. In the background, surveillance footage from the villa shows nothing unusual. No forced entry. No access logs. Just one early morning car pulling away. A rented Peugeot. Inside it, Taria. And beside her, Damon Wells, Taria's boyfriend. An undocumented American in Europe with a forged identity and a street reputation in Miami. They didn't head for the Florence airport. They didn't take the train. Instead, they disappeared into Italy's back roads, leaving no forwarding address, no luggage tags, no customs records. Bellini didn't panic at first. He called her. Once. Twice. 6 times. Each call rang once, then straight to voicemail. By 8 p.m., his calls stopped altogether. At 9:14 p.m., he texted her. Just 3 words. Where are you? No reply. Ever. Bellini hired a local IT contractor privately the next morning. What he found made Bellini's stomach turn. The wire transfer had not come from Taria's usual laptop. Her login was used from a device Bellini had never seen before. And the IP address? Traced to a short-term Wi-Fi rental near Piazza della Repubblica. Registered under a name Bellini didn't recognize. In Parker. By the morning of March 1st, Bellini's luxury villa stood still. No Taria. No Damon. Just a cold bed, a quiet phone, and a man with $123,000 less in his account. And no one to blame. He waited 2 days before calling police. By then, they were already gone. But a red light camera near the border of Ventimiglia had captured something unexpected. A silver Peugeot, plates removed, crossing out of Italy into France at exactly 2:45 a.m. The driver wore a black hoodie. The passenger's face was partially turned away, but she wore Taria's signature gold bamboo earrings. The sun hadn't yet burned off the night when the couple arrived in Miami. It was February 29th, leap year. An extra day on the calendar. Borrowed time. They checked into a boutique hotel in South Beach under new names. Mr. and Mrs. Hamilton. Room 307. Ocean facing. No luggage tags. No questions asked. Cash in full. Taria carried a single duffel bag. Inside, 2 burner phones, a flash drive, and a hairbrush still caked with strands of her real life. Damon, ever watchful, scoped the exits like it was muscle memory. They didn't ask for Wi-Fi, didn't turn on the TV, didn't order room service. At 8:12 a.m., Taria activated the first burner. She opened a new digital wallet, encrypted, anonymous, based in Panama. Then she sat by the window, scrolling the Miami skyline through the cracked glass. "Nobody's looking for us here," she whispered. But even she didn't believe that. Damon, restless, stepped onto the balcony. The city below was already alive. He lit a cigarette with shaking fingers and dialed a contact from prison. Javon Stacks Dunley, now supposedly working security in Little Haiti. "We need clean wheels, quiet cash," Damon told him, "and no loose mouths." That same afternoon, Taria entered a strip mall print shop in Liberty City. She used the self-service kiosk to create 2 new Florida IDs. She picked names from old reruns, playing on a muted TV above the counter. The laminator spat out fresh lives in 30 seconds. But something had shifted. Damon noticed it first. When he leaned in for a selfie that night, she turned her face. Just slightly. "You don't trust me?" he asked. "I trust the plan," she replied. She never said him. She said the plan. That night, while Damon slept face down, exhausted, Taria stood barefoot on the cold tile floor, texting from the burner. Half cleared. Next move. No reply. Just a flickering message status. Delivered. Not read. Meanwhile, across the ocean, Marco Bellini sipped a single espresso in the Florence airport lounge. He didn't yell. He didn't even flinch when he saw his bank account had been drained. He simply pressed a thumb to his phone, unlocked a secure folder, and slid a manila envelope across the counter to his private pilot. Inside, a surveillance still of Damon standing outside a Florida pawn shop, a printout of the fake ID Taria made just hours ago, and a grainy hotel receipt. Room 307, Ocean View. At 2:04 p.m., March 1st, Marco's jet touched down at Opa-locka Executive Airport. He stepped onto the tarmac wearing sunglasses and silence. No luggage, just the envelope. 20 minutes later, a black Escalade rolled through South Beach. A man in the back seat held up a photo of Mr. and Mrs. Hamilton to a doorman outside the boutique hotel. "Seen them?" The doorman hesitated. "They checked in yesterday," he finally said. "Left this morning. Looked nervous. Some fugitives run. Others just move sideways. Until the past catches up. If the person you betrayed was powerful and ruthless, how far would you run? And could you ever stop?" At 10:42 p.m., the lobby security camera catches Taria pressing the elevator button with the back of her wrist. She's barefoot, wearing a robe that doesn't close properly. Damon trails behind her, phone pressed to his cheek. He glances at the camera, then turns it off. She disappears down the hallway. He stays back, 10 steps behind her, still talking, still hiding. The man at the front desk would later say, "She looked like she just realized something, and wished she hadn't." At 11:20 p.m., someone uses her keycard to access room 408. The system logs 2 entries. One at 11:20, another at 11:32. No exits in between. That's the last digital footprint either of them leaves behind. In the morning of March 3rd, at 11:06 a.m., room service knocks twice. No answer. The Do Not Disturb sign is gone. Housekeeping is called. When the maid enters, she pauses just inside the doorway. The lights are off. The curtains drawn. The bathroom fan hums. A tray of untouched food sits on the table. She takes 2 steps in, then stops. "Later," she says. It smelled like bleach, but not clean, not finished. On the bed, blood-stained sheets pulled up halfway. No bodies. Under the bed, a burner phone, cracked screen still glowing. An unsent message sits open. "I'm sorry, but he..." Then nothing. Just a blinking cursor. At 11:57 a.m., hotel staff calls the police. They arrive. Gloves on. No screams reported. No witnesses claiming to see them leave. But someone did. A guest in the adjacent room, an elderly widow from St. Louis, tells detectives she heard arguing through the wall. Then a sound that woke her. It wasn't a scream, she says. More like someone praying, with their mouth closed. Between 1 o'clock and 2 a.m., a 19-minute CCTV blackout hits the west stairwell. When footage resumes, no one is seen exiting. But from the marina, a camera captures a woman boarding a speedboat alone. She's limping, hood up, wet hair. She turns away just before stepping out of frame. Was it her? By the time police search the room, the couple is gone. But blood tells the truth silence can't. The case is reclassified from missing persons to possible homicide. And in Italy, Marco Bellini isn't answering calls. Because by now, he already knows. Then on March 4th, 2024, 3:12 a.m. Miami-Dade dispatch receives a call from a sanitation crew. They spot a black BMW with its engine running, driver's door cracked, and no one in sight. Officers arrive in minutes. The interior is empty, but something's off. Windows fogged, back seat empty, faint coppery, scent escaping through the vents. When they pop the trunk, the night splits open. Inside, Damon and Taria. Lifeless. He's slumped forward, wrists bound behind his back with black zip ties. A single gunshot wound to the head. She's curled to his side. 2 shots, one in the chest, one through the side of her neck. No signs of a struggle. Her hands are unbound. The forensic lead says later, they didn't fight. They didn't run. Whoever did this knew exactly how to keep them still. Gunpowder residue suggests both were shot inside the car. But no shell casings, no weapon. The car is clean, too clean. Like it had been wiped down, except for one mistake. A bloody fingerprint near the trunk latch. The BMW? Rented 2 days earlier from a low-tier agency in Homestead, using forged ID linked to Damien D.Nt. Rowe, Damon's old cellmate. Detectives dig deeper and quickly find that Rowe hasn't been seen since March 2nd. Detectives finds a blood trail, faint and drying, leads toward an old industrial building. Inside the warehouse, crates labeled Fragile, Art Florence, a folding table with latex gloves and wipes, a suitcase with $42,300 in rubber-banded stacks, blood pooled behind one of the crates, and, near the far wall, a burner phone shattered under boot prints. But the most chilling discovery isn't the bodies, the cash, or the bullets. It's a cream envelope, sealed and pristine, wedged between 2 blood-smeared crates. On the front, 2 letters. MB. Inside, a single note on plain paper. No signature. Just a line in bold ink. You always said you owned me. Now look what you paid for. To police, it looks like a botched escape. A double cross gone sideways. But the note tells a deeper story. One of ownership, of revenge, of unfinished business. Back in Florence, Marco Bellini tells his private security, find out who touched my shipment. I don't care who's dead. The money's still moving. Interpol is alerted. The art crates, originally logged as replicas, are missing from Bellini's storage manifest, and a serial number on one matches a stolen listing from a gallery in Milan. Rowe, Damon's former cellmate, is now wanted for questioning. But the timeline raises bigger questions. Why would Damon involve a known criminal with Bellini's stolen assets? Why did Taria leave the hotel alone that night? And most of all, who wrote the note? 2 bodies in a trunk, $42,000 in cash, and a message soaked in old grudges. Was this a love story turned fatal, or someone collecting a final debt? Meanwhile, the blood found in the warehouse doesn't match Damon, Taria, or Damien Rowe. There's a 4th person in this story, and they're still out there. March 3rd, 9:47 p.m. Jade Knox, Taria's 24-year-old sister, had just come home from work. She was folding laundry, earbuds in, not expecting anything, not needing anything. But the notification that popped up next stopped her cold. A voice note from Taria, time-stamped only 17 minutes earlier. It wasn't long, 32 seconds. But every second of it would change what Jade believed about her sister's final hours. Taria's voice is raw, breathless. Her words scattered but deliberate. If something happens, don't believe what they say. Please forgive me. I tried. I'm sorry. She then hears a man, not yelling, but speaking fast, calm, controlled, not in English. The last thing heard, a door slamming. Atlanta PD brought in a forensic linguist. The background voice, confirmed, Italian, not a tourist dialect. Milanese, northern inflection. Precise. Educated. The voice was enhanced, isolated, slowed. A single phrase was recovered. You should have kept your mouth shut. Metadata on the voice memo traced its origin to a warehouse district near Little Haiti, far from their boutique hotel in South Beach. That meant this wasn't an impulsive goodbye sent from bed. She was somewhere else. Maybe taken there. Maybe trying to run. Police searched the area, but by then it had been over 24 hours. Whatever was there was already gone. Jet logs confirm Marco Bellini's Gulfstream G550 departed from Opelika on March 5th at 2:16 p.m. Destination, Milan, Italy. That's 36 hours after Turia and Damon were found in the trunk of a rented BMW, parked just 10 minutes from the warehouse. Bellini never gave a statement. His jet's tail number was already flagged in a DEA corruption file, one that mysteriously disappeared 2 weeks later. Jade still plays the voice note at night, sometimes, just to hear her sister's voice, just to remind herself it was real. But no one can answer the question that's now burning a hole in the case. Was Turia trying to escape the man she loved, or the man they both owed? The Miami coroner marked the cause of death as execution-style gunshots. No defensive wounds, no signs of struggle. But when asked about the bruising on Turia's wrists, he hesitated. There was tape, he said, but it had been removed. The question is, by whom? The hotel security logs tell a story no one officially recorded. At 3:14 a.m., a power surge blacks out the lobby cameras for 57 seconds. No weather event. No local outage. Just a flicker in one building. Then, footage returns. And it shows a man. Medium build. Designer shoes. Moving with a calculated limp. His right wrist glints beneath his sleeve. Same gold Vacheron Constantine watch Marco Bellini was known for. A model he reportedly never removed. Not even when swimming. He enters through a service corridor, normally used by staff. Wearing gloves. No fingerprints. No DNA. The hotel staff tell police they saw no one. The manager insists the suite's door logs show only 2 entries that night, Turia and Damon. But the hallway footage tells a different story. A man exits the room at 4:28 a.m. Same limp. Same watch. Carrying nothing. He disappears down the back stairs. A day later, Bellini's private jet files a flight plan to Milan, departing from a private hangar 18 minutes from the hotel. Departure time, 6:07 a.m. Italian authorities later confirm Marco Bellini landed in Milan on March 5th, just 36 hours after Turia and Damon were pronounced dead. But when Interpol was asked to issue a red notice for his detention, the request was filed, then withdrawn within 14 days. No explanation was ever given. Unofficial sources say a U.S. consul official in Rome received a courtesy call from Bellini's legal team the night before the withdrawal. One internal memo, since deleted, referenced urgent diplomatic interest and reputational concerns for strategic EU partners. In plain language, someone made this vanish. Weeks later, a different kind of evidence surfaces. A whistleblower from the hotel's third-party security vendor leaks a backup tape online. It includes an angle never released publicly. Lobby footage that shows the same man, Marco or someone like him, leaving the hotel through the side exit moments before dawn. As he passes a line of parked taxis, a rooftop surveillance camera across the street catches a final detail. The initials embroidered on the hotel's room key, MB, and, tucked under his arm, a familiar black folder. Back in Atlanta, Jade Knox, Turia's sister, plays a voice memo left by her sister just 36 hours before the murders. In it, Turia's voice shakes. He said if I ever left, I'd disappear. That no one would look for me, because I was replaceable. Just another girl with a good smile. If anything happens, please forgive me. But that's not the last known trace of Marco Bellini. 3 months later, an American tourist in Buenos Aires reports seeing a man matching Bellini's description at a waterfront art fair, introducing himself under a new name, Niccolò Marinisi. The alias belongs to a real Italian man who died in 2019, a minor art dealer. Bellini would have known the name. Interpol declines to comment. So far, no charges, no arrest, no justice. The last image from Buenos Aires shows a man standing beside a woman in dark glasses, smiling. A child holds his hand. On his wrist, the same gold watch. And in his coat pocket, a familiar black folder, creased, frayed, and unmistakable. In the browser history of Taria's stolen laptop, recovered weeks later from a pawn shop in Hialeah, investigators found something telling. Late-night searches for how to fake a seizure, U.S. consulate safe word, and what happens to unclaimed bodies overseas. But more haunting were the drafts. 17 unsent emails. All to Damon. All dated after their alleged escape. The most disputed artifact in the case. A single file labeled BelliniWireRoute.jpg. Encrypted. Password protected. Cracked only by the FBI months later. It mapped a chain of shell companies running through Monaco, Dubai, and Panama. Amounts in 7 figures. Company names that didn't exist on paper, but matched whispers in black market circles. Taria had one tool, her words, and she used them like a blade. When she couldn't scream, she wrote. When she couldn't run, she recorded. In one saved voice memo, just days before her disappearance, her voice shakes but remains steady. I want one life. Just one. Not this. But I can't leave unless someone opens the door from the outside. Inside Damon's phone, deleted messages recovered from the cloud. A note titled simply, "For her. They think I drag you into this. But you're the only one who ever knew the whole map. You kept us one step ahead. If they come for me, I'll take the fall." Were they lovers on the run? Partners in crime? Or two people desperately trying to outsmart something neither one of them could name? In the end, love may have been real, but so was fear, and fear left clearer footprints than either of them. In Milan, nearly 4 months after the bodies were found, the White Wall Gallery on Via Magenta had been shuttered for weeks. No press release, no public notice. Then quietly, almost like it never happened, it reopened. New name, new ownership, same address. Bellini Arte Contemporanea was now Linea Nuova. Except the man once known as Marco Bellini was never mentioned. Not in the press, not on the books, not even whispered in the corridors. Inside, the layout had changed. Walls repainted in matte grays and cool whites. The security cameras updated, the storage vaults emptied. But one thing remained. A painting hung behind the new director's office desk. A woman seated in profile, her eyes downcast, her lips crudely stitched shut with red thread. A single tear falling down her cheek. No plaque, no artist name, no explanation. The painting wasn't part of the official collection. It never appeared in auction databases, gallery catalogs, or the Milan Art Registry. A visitor snapped a photo. It spread across a niche Reddit thread, captioned, "Is this Taria?" The resemblance was too close to ignore, and the implications too disturbing to discuss publicly. Back in Atlanta, a new name appeared in the digital forensics logs. A cybersecurity analyst, hired privately by Damon's sister, was sifting through old cloud backups. In a forgotten storage drive linked to Taria's deleted Gmail, they found a screenshot. An offshore banking interface, Swiss-located, art sector only. The balance, $312,000. The sender, anonymous valuation exchanges. The recipient, Taria Delane. But the access portal had been locked. Two-factor authentication routed to a number, now disconnected. Password reset blocked by a security phrase that read, "The eyes always lie." No login attempts had been recorded since her death. No withdrawals. No pings. As if someone had buried the account on purpose, or was waiting for the right moment to return. The Italian Art Crime Unit was asked to investigate the gallery's new ownership. They declined. There is no evidence of ongoing criminal activity, they wrote. When pressed about the painting, they said it did not meet the criteria for provenance tracing. But privately, a former employee of Linea Nuova, who asked not to be named, shared this. The woman in that portrait, they didn't hang it as tribute. They hung it as a reminder that secrets can be bought, and silence has a price. No one knows who painted it. Some say it was Marco Bellini himself, before he vanished. Others believe it was recovered from Taria's storage unit, then smuggled overseas to keep it hidden in plain sight. But the bigger question remained. Was the painting her voice, or someone else's message to keep others quiet? 6 weeks later, an encrypted email was sent from an unknown IP address to the bank hosting the offshore account. It contained only 2 words. "I remember." But the sender was never identified. The bank denied the request, and the account remains frozen. The funerals were held a week apart. Different churches, different cities, 2 separate worlds burying 2 people who died together. Taria's mother insisted on a closed casket. She told reporters, "Let the public remember her face from the flyers, not from the photos I saw at the morgue." A white dove balloon released by her aunt got caught in the church rafters. It stayed there for 4 days. Damon's service was quieter, held in a small chapel off Cascade Road in Atlanta. Only 16 people attended. His older brother refused to speak. His father never came. The family printed no programs, just a single quote taped on the chapel door. "Loyalty without truth is just a slow form of death." Despite the headlines, no one was ever charged. No convictions, no confessions, no clear villain. Interpol's interest faded. The red notice vanished from their system in less than a month. Italian officials declined to reopen the investigation. Bellini's name never appeared in official filings, and no one ever asked where the surveillance footage really came from. In Milan, the gallery rebranded. New sign, new staff, but the back office remains locked to visitors. Online, Taria's name became myth. Some say she planned it all from the start, that the heist was just phase 1 of a larger con, that the real money was never stolen, it was transferred, hidden in offshore accounts under shell corporations that no one's cracked. Others believe she was silenced, that she discovered something inside Bellini's network, something bigger than stolen art, that she threatened to go public. There's even a theory she's still alive, living in Greece under a new identity. That Damon was the loose, and she couldn't tie. No proof, no digital trail, just a ghost and a girl who once wanted to escape the system. Investigators uncovered a private digital vault registered to Taria. Encrypted, complex, estimated to contain over $300,000 worth of digital art valuations, bank ledgers, and black market contacts. But no one has accessed it. Not her family, not law enforcement, because the password has never been found, and the security protocol allows only 3 attempts before permanent erasure. 2 have already failed. She ran toward freedom, but maybe she never saw the hand pulling the string because she was holding the other end herself.